It's time to check your money with Mike Jennings, wealth advisor with Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing good, George. It's a new month. We're in August.
Already? Yeah. Okay. I guess it is August. Wow.
Yeah.
It, I,
Summer's getting out of here. I'll tell you that.
man, listen, it's been hot this past week, but I'm all right with it because you know what happens a few months down the road. So I'm not complaining at all.
Exactly. Exactly. But getting on with the show, I've worked through some issues with some of our clients recently regarding their businesses. And I know we've talked, a lot to our business owner listeners out there about plenty things when it comes to, actually running a business, but not necessarily, starting a business and when what kind of businesses are out there. Um, I've seen many people recently take up a hobby or take a hobby or something that they are good at and turn it into an actual business. And thanks to entities like Center State CEO, luckily I've been able to have a hand in celebrating a bunch of local small businesses and their achievements. So I wanted to come on here and talk about the different types of businesses, and one that has always been popular, but I see a lot more people on things like social media start talking about it more, in certain conversations. But that is, of course, the LLC. So we ready to get started, George?
Let's hit it, Michael.
All right, all right. So what is an LLC, right? LLC stands for a limited liability company. It's a very, like I said, it's a very common type of business, and it's actually the most common type of small business. I believe the figure is around 49% of small businesses are LLCs versus all the other types of businesses. So very, very common, very popular. Now, what does the limited liability mean? Right? You say LLC, but what does that mean,
Yeah,
right?
let's get that.
Now, we all know that getting into business isn't the easiest thing. At best case, everything possible goes right with setting up and running the business. But realistically, many businesses and their owners will face all sorts of challenges. But small businesses is the lifeblood of the American economy, and they are the largest employers of Americans. Most Americans who have a job, they have a job at a small business. So, in order to allow Americans to venture into the world of business and set themselves up for success without taking on all of the risks personally, we utilize things such as LLCs. So, LLCs create a business entity separate from the owner or owners if there's multiple people that own the LLC. Um, this creates a barrier where certain liabilities are not transferred to the owners. So, for example, let's say someone trips and falls on your business's property, which, like you just mentioned, in a few months, that might be that might be the reality for a lot of people. It's not hard to imagine during the Syracuse winters. Um, that person could possibly sue your business, but because your business is a separate legal entity, that means you are not automatically implicated as the owner. Now there are a couple exceptions that I'll make note of a bit later, but at the front at the outset, you are not automatically liable as the owner of that business.
And we have one right here, Brackens Financial Solutions Network,
There you
LLC.
go. Now, I hope nobody slips and falls coming in here. We
Okay,
are in a
because
bit, we
look,
are in a building, so you
oh,
might have a few other properties to get through.
I know that's right. All right, so you're sounding good so far, but what is the advantage of starting an LLC versus just going into business?
Yes. So in comparison to, let's say, just going into business for yourself, which, we call like a sole proprietorship, the biggest difference will be that liability piece we just talked about. Now, technically, you can just start a business, but if you do that, there's no separation. You are the business. So any debts, obligations, liabilities that the business owes, or is responsible for, you owe and are responsible for. But another big advantage that comes with LLCs comes in its flexibility and taxation. Now, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but LLCs are hybrid entities that are technically not specifically recognized by the federal government. So what does that mean? LLCs are created, they're filed and regulated for the most part in whichever state they are formed in. So if you form an LLC right here in Syracuse, then that LLC is filed with the state of New York. Because of this, LLC owners can choose how their business will be taxed when it comes to, federal taxation. And those options are to be taxed as either a sole proprietorship, like we just talked about, or taxed as a partnership. This is another type of business, or taxed as a corporation, which is defined as either an S corp or a C corp. And we can get into that another episode. But choosing anything other than a C corp allows for what is known as pass-through taxation. Now, what is that? So we know that people who earn an income, they owe taxes, and so do businesses. So pass-through taxation means that the tax liability passes through the business, so pass right through the business, and the business itself does not pay taxes, and the profit that is generated by the business is treated as taxable income for the owner or the owners if it's multiple owner LLC. Now, this saves you as the owner from being taxed twice as you would if you would have chose a C corp taxation. Because who wants to be taxed twice? Who would choose that, right? Um, this also means that losses from the business are also passed through to the owners, which can also be deducted from your personal taxes. So that'll take away your tax liability on the personal level as well.
All right, so you definitely have a lot going on here. I'm sure aspiring entrepreneurs out there are wondering what this means for them and how they will go about choosing to start an LLC.
Yeah, for sure, George. And that question involves plenty of conversations around business planning. But when it comes to filing and registering LLC with your state, it will take a bit of paperwork and some requirements that many may not be aware of, such as in New York State, and a few other states, um, where there's a formation of an LLC that must be published by two news organizations within the county of formation. So again, if you were to start a business right here in Syracuse, New York, you have to publish once that business is formed for, I believe, 6 weeks before actually starting to do business. And two of the local newspapers here or any of the news organizations within Onondaga County. Now that sounds like a hassle, but in the grand scheme of everything related to running a business, this isn't the worst. This is just something you have to do to get started, to get into business.
Mm-hmm.
And the fees related to everything with forming an LLC, which is the actual filing, which is like $200. That publishing requirement, which is 50, and you may choose to have a DBA or to reserve your name in that time period. So that could be anywhere between $250 to $300. So be prepared for that as well. Now, some quick things I will wrap up with. If you start an LLC, understand that it is a legal separate entity from you as the owner, and that must be treated as such. So remember when I said that there was an exception to that limited liability thing, right? Your business's financials, your business's accounts, bookkeeping, etc., must all be separate from your own personal finances. Otherwise, you can be seen as being responsible for the business and be held liable for a judgment against the business itself. That's known as piercing the corporate veil. Overall, to best determine what sort of business entity to set your business up as, obviously consult with professionals such as your business or tax attorney. And of course, to make sure that your business planning aligns with your personal financial goals, or if you're considering taking that leap from being an employee to being self-employed, give your friendly neighborhood advisor a call at 315-748-5540. Again, that's 315-748-5540, or send me a quick note at michael.jennings@brackensfsn.com.
You down with LLC? Yeah, you know me. I just had to do that. Anyway, Mike Jennings is a wealth advisor with Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of
There you go.
LPL Financial member SIPC. He is your friendly neighborhood advisor.